Bernie Sanders made possibly the biggest mistake when he brought on Linda Sarsour as a campaign surrogate because she's, at least in my opinion, I gotta be very careful, an overt anti-Semite. And according to several stories, very well, may be propagating an absurd anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. Isn't it just funny how I constantly rag on these people for their bigotry and racism, and they try to levy the accusation against me? I've made nothing but defense. In my videos, I've said nothing but defense of social justice when it's applied liberally. That is, in terms of freedom. I'm not talking about the left. I'm saying when you believe in individual freedom, respect, and equality of opportunity, we shouldn't be peddling an absurd conspiracy nonsense. Well, Bernie Sanders decided Linda Sarsour would be a great person to add to his team, and that was a huge mistake. From the Washington Post, Women's March cutting ties with 3 original board members accused of anti-Semitism. You know what? According to the story, this was like 2 months ago or longer, about 2 months ago. Maybe they didn't announce it right away because she needed to be able to get on, get a new job. Okay, Bernie, you gotta stop, man. I have to say, there is a difference between supporting someone's overt anti-Semitism and supporting their speech. This isn't the instance of Linda Sarsour coming out and saying horrifying things, but even if it was, should she be on Bernie Sanders' campaign? No. First, strategically, it's bad. You will lose support. Don't do it. Now, a lot of people said, yeah, but Bernie's Jewish. I don't care. Okay? You can respect someone's free speech and choose not to associate with them. You can respect someone's free speech and argue against it. Bernie should not have brought her on. Let's read the story from the Washington Post. They say, the Women's March is cutting ties with 3 inaugural board members who have been dogged by accusations of anti-Semitism, infighting, and financial mismanagement. Controversies some say have slowed the organization's progress and diminished its impact. Co-chairs Bob Bland, Tamika Mallory, and Linda Sarsour stepped down from the board July 15th, though their organization has been slow to announce their departures. The Women's March website continued to host their photos and titles as co-chairs through this week, when the group announced the board turnover. And now, Bernie, you reap what you sow. I'm shocked there's no PR person or marketing person who could have said, do not bring her on. I wouldn't expect any politician to bring on any controversial culture war personality when moving forward. I'm actually surprised some of these people are willing to do interviews in some of the channels they've done. I get it. You've got to be careful. Bernie Sanders really hurt himself with this. A diverse cast of 16 new board members that includes 3 Jewish women, a transgender woman, a former legislator, 2 religious leaders, and a member of the Oglala tribe of the Lakota Nation will inherit an organization recovering from a failed attempt to trademark the Women's March name and fractured relationships with local activist groups and the Jewish community. Notice they put 3 Jewish women on the board, replacing the 3 people stepping down. Now, I wonder why that is. It is not a coincidence. This organization has been accused of anti-Semitism over and over again. Interesting how they have fellow travelers in the squad. The shakeup comes at a critical time for the organization. With the 2020 election kicking into high gear, experts said organizers can no longer afford the distractions and controversies that have muddled the group's message and loomed over its every move. Yet Bernie Sanders can. I'm gonna throw some credit to John Levine. I saw his tweet on this one. And he said, in response to the story, quote, "We stand together." Yes, there's Bernie Sanders saying, "Thank you, Linda Sarsour, for helping to organize the march and build a progressive movement. We stand together." Okay, Bernie, you stand together with Linda Sarsour. Noted. Count me out. Okay? Bernie has gone off the deep end, embracing all the establishment trash. I don't even know what his deal was. He was a very different candidate in 2016. Quote, "There's an opportunity here for a group to rise out of the ashes of divisiveness and continue on with the mission that was the Women's March, and honestly, that would be wonderful," said Dana R. Fisher, a sociology professor at the University of Maryland, who studies and tracks protest movements. "There were so many things that were odd decisions, and decisions that made it unclear whether they actually cared about building toward a blue wave and building on the energy and enthusiasm that was built in 2017. I would say they didn't. I would say that these people are, you know what? I want to make this point, okay? This is what's really frustrating about the so-called alt-left and why they, the media and the left, they refuse to acknowledge this within their ranks. So good. First step, the media reporting on it, them calling it out. But I hope you all realize, people watching this, that people like Linda Sarsour are not very different from white supremacists. The only difference is the color of their skin. But they hold the same stupid ideas about, they're anti-Semites. They believe the same thing. According to the stories that came out, they peddle in the same absurd conspiracy theories. Yet for some reason, it's okay when they do it. Alex Jones can go on his show and say stupid, hyperbolic things and talk about frogs turning gay. And then everyone says he must be banned because he uses metaphors, and he uses them rather poorly, I might add. So they get him banned because he talked about battle rifles. Linda Sarsour peddles in the same conspiracy nonsense. I understand she's not going around saying pick up battle rifles. But the point is, I don't see a big difference. Actually, no, I take that back. I do see a big difference. I think what she peddles in is much more dangerous, especially when you consider the mainstream appeal and the fact that she's working on Bernie's campaign. Alex Jones is just some dude in Austin ranting about frogs turning gay and cell towers and stuff. But he's the dangerous one? The conspiracy theories they peddle in have a real and serious impact on actual politics and people in this country. And I understand you might say, well, so does Alex Jones. You have to understand, man. A lot of people believe the guy, and a lot of people watch him because it's funny. They watch him because he says he's very exuberant. This, to me, is real danger. And they say, Tim, why don't you try and, argue about Alex Jones and why he should be banned? This is turning into a Jones thing, but I'll say this. Free speech. You've got it. If Jones wants to talk about the frogs turning gay, don't care. Let him do it. If Linda Sarsour wants to be an anti-Semite, by all means, go around and preach everything you want. But when you associate with, Linda Sarsour's ideas, I'll tell you this. You associate with Alex Jones and a lot of the things he's pushed, and people are going to look at you side-eyed. You associate with what she's doing, and they're going to say, get the hell out of my restaurant, okay? And while I certainly believe there should be a level of civility and debate among many of these ideas, I will say there is an argument in saying a private business doesn't have to associate with a certain individual who holds certain views. It's complicated, it really is. And I want to make sure I stress this point to create some clarity here. Linda Sarsour is free to speak whatever she wants, and I think she should be allowed to on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and whatever platform because they're monopolies, essentially monopolies. I don't like the idea of major politicians embracing this ideology. When Steve King came out and said these things about white nationalism, the Republicans had no problem saying, out. When Linda Sarsour does it, Bernie Sanders hires her. That's the problem. That's exemplifying the problem I have with all of this. Why is it? This is the problem you'll face, Republicans. Your willingness to actually address bad behavior to an extent, and the Democrats' unwillingness to address it. In fact, while this is good, okay, hold on, let me walk that back a little bit because they are getting rid of her. She is stepping down. Bernie hired her. Steve King isn't raising any money. He's failing to fundraise, and many people believe he won't make it, and they're going to have to replace him. Sounds like a good thing. If you want to come out and say things like this, okay, then you leave. People don't want to work with you. The end of story. Linda Sarsour gets hired. You see the problem. You see the inherent problem. Ilhan Omar was even condemned by the Anti-Defamation League for anti-Semitism. They said, why won't the Democrats do anything? She apologized. We get it. The ADL I am no fan of, but even they can call out Ilhan Omar. Instead, we get Bernie Sanders hiring Linda Sarsour. Bland and Mallory, who serve as co-presidents on the organization, will be formally replaced when the new board convenes for its first meeting this month. Once assembled, officials said the incoming board will elect new leadership. Co-chairman Carmen Perez, who runs the Gathering for Justice, a criminal justice reform group that seeks to end child incarceration, will stay. Calls for the co-chairs to resign rose to a crescendo ahead of the 2019 Women's March on Washington, which drew thousands of women to the district in January, supporting the movement's telltale pink hats. And they go on to talk about Nation of Islam and Farrakhan, and we get it. Reached via text, Sarsour said the new Women's March board is amazing, adding that she will continue working to get voters to the polls in 2020. I am grateful to the women who stepped up to shepherd the Women's March. This is what women supporting women looks like. Great. I want to say something real quick. Bill Maher had Barry Weiss on, who made a really important point about Israel, Palestine, and Muslims and all this. One of the things that's most frustrating to me of the whole Israel-Palestine argument is that they seem to be hiding behind Palestine when they're actually overt anti-Semites. They seem to target Israel specifically while not highlighting what's going on in China with the Uyghurs, the million plus who are being detained in camps. I wonder, I really do. There's a conflict happening between, Israel and Palestine. I get it. Totally understand. But they ignore every other military expenditure in every other country. They don't talk about Yemen. They don't talk about Saudi Arabia. They don't talk about China. Some people do. I'm not saying everyone on the left. Crystal Ball pointed this out. She says they do highlight this. I understand you do. I do. I get it. I appreciate it. I really do. I respect it. I'm talking about people like this that have a twisted obsession with just Israel, like Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, who make it in politics, who are supported by Democrats and hired by Bernie Sanders. It's disgusting. It's a double standard. It's hypocrisy at its finest. Well, she's out. Good. Whatever. I got a couple more segments coming up in a few minutes. Stick around. I will see you shortly.